Welcome to the Fittish Dad Podcast. I am your Fittish dad, Caleb Bowers. So, on today's episode of the Fittish Dad Podcast, I want to really dive into my favorite part of fitness and health and the such. On today's episode of the Fittish Dad Podcast, I want to dive deep into my favorite area and arena of fitness and health, and that is running. I love running. I love to run. Short, long distance, fast, slow, flat ground, or not flat ground, road, trail, 5Ks, ultra, all the things to do with running. I love running. So I just want to spend some time today talking about that, really diving in deep into it's probably at least 2 or 3 episodes because there's just so much information and I really want to hit all of it as much as I can. And I'm sure we'll hit more as it's ongoing through future episodes. But I just wanted to give a quick rundown of my qualifications to talk about running and why you should give a crap about what I have to say because, everybody has an opinion, but not everybody's opinion matters or is even close to being relevant or even close to being factual. So my qualifications is first and foremost, I am an ISSA, International Sports Science Association certified running coach and nutritionist. So what that means is through the certification people at ISSA, I took a class that required, it took me, I don't even know how many credit hours, but the whole course took me about 4 months and then 6 months for the nutritionist one to get both certifications, thousands of dollars. I mean, it wasn't like I'd take a little, 5 minutes, $50. It was an actual, I would say, as someone who went to college, it was on par with going and taking an online college class. So I have those two certifications. That just gives me knowledge. That's all that does. It doesn't give me expertise, but it just gives me knowledge on specific things within the sport and the nutrition realm. So I have those qualifications. And real world qualifications, I have run dozens of 5Ks. And I've never raced a 10K, but through training, I run a 10K at least once or twice a week. I've run about 8 half marathons, and I've run 3 marathons and 1 ultra marathon. That was my latest race. I guess technically my latest race was actually a 5K, but my latest big race that I was actually training for was the 50K that I ran in May of this year in 2024 at the Bryce Canyon Ultra Marathon. There was a bunch of different lengths. I just did the 50K. And my next race, my next big one, actually I have a half marathon in September. I'm more or less training for. I'm going to see how it goes. But my next big race that I'm actually really focusing on preparing for is my first 50-mile race at the Palo Duro Canyon Ultra in October, I believe, at Palo Duro Canyon State Park here in Texas. Super excited and pumped for that. So I've been training for that. And I have a long experience with short and long distances because growing up, I did not like, actually, believe it or not, did not like running long distances. I was a sprinter. I am built for power naturally. I am built for short, quick bursts of powerful energy. I was pretty fast when I was younger. I played football in high school and college. I played a lot of sports. I played pretty much almost every sport at some point in time growing up. But my favorite sport and the sport I played in college was football. And when I decided I wanted to play college and football, I spent a whole 2 years working on becoming fast. I was naturally pretty quick and had some good natural ability, but I spent 2 years training specifically on being fast. And my senior year, I guess technically the summer of my junior year going into or the summer of my senior year, going into my senior year. I ran a 4.62 in the 40-yard dash. For anybody who does not know what that means, that's pretty dang good for let's just be honest, pretty dang good for a 17-year-old white boy. I was considered fast. I was one of the faster guys on my football team, and I was I was in the faster in college. I played like a linebacker safety, and I played the linebacker safety because I was bigger, but I was also fast. So I was able to hit that hybrid role. And I ran track because I had to. In high school, I did like the 800 and the mile and stuff like that, but because while I was fast, I was not fast enough to be in like the 100 or the 60 or the 200 or the 400. Those were reserved for the like outrageously fast people. But I just did it because in football you either had to do that or powerlifting. So I did powerlifting one year and then I did track the next. But those is just a short list of my qualifications. What gives me any type of, I don't even want to say expertise because I'm still learning so much, and there's so much to learn, and a lot of it, like I said, even though I have these certifications and I have the knowledge and I know how it works on paper, I've learned way more from actually doing the work myself. Like it was funny, even when I was taking it, there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, yeah, I said the stuff that I did when I was in high school preparing to play college football to get faster and stuff like that, when it talks about sprinting and stuff like that I was doing, even though I didn't know I was like why I was doing it, or I didn't know why it worked. I just knew that it did. Excuse me. And now I know why it worked, even though obviously it worked back then. So I have a good mesh of the knowledge and the real world experience to be able to talk about running to your average person who is either, like I said, just getting into running, or is struggling with their own physical health, wanting to get into running, or just in shape in general, wanting to build those healthy habits. So I'm right at the perfect spot where I can be like, hey, and that's the point of the Fit-ish Dad podcast, and that's why it's called the Fit-ish Dad podcast. It's because I'm not some super successful shredded 5-minute mile sub 2:45 marathon type person, though I would love to eventually reach marks like that as the years go on, though we'll have to see. But I said I am the Fit-ish Dad podcast. I mean, I'm pretty fit. I have a very good level of fitness. I'm able to do most of the things that I want to do physically without like wanting to die. But I still am, like I said, a dad, a husband. I have a full-time job, and I have a couple of other jobs, and also doing this. Like I got a lot going on. So fit-ish, doing okay. But I just want to tell y'all a little bit about my own running story and why I got into running. And it's a long story because it has a lot of highs and lows, and it ebbs and flows throughout my life. Like I said, I'll say my background obviously with athletics, like I said, in running, began in football and sports in elementary, middle school, and high school. Very specifically with football, because in high school, after 10th grade or during 10th grade, everything became extremely focused on football because I decided I wanted to play in college, and so became extremely focused on football and extremely focused on trying to be the best athlete I could be. I actually didn't play football until my sophomore year of high school, so I was a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of just the football specific skill development. So I knew I had to really hype up my physical and athletic abilities to really stick out on tape and to scouts and to coaches at colleges, as not a, hey, look at what I can do, but hey, look at the potential that I have. And so that's what I really leaned heavily on is, and when I interviewed with coaches and went to different schools and visits and all that sort of thing, is what I used to sell myself was that, I don't have a bunch of crazy stats because I don't have this long career and all this sort of thing. But so you can look on tape, you can look and see the potential that's there. You can see the athletic potential that's there, and you can see, and I have proof that I'm willing to put in the work to get to the level that I want to, that you need me to be at in order to be successful and all that sort of thing. And so I worked so hard and got the scholarship and then went to school and then fell off a cliff. All that work I put in. My freshman year, so summer going into my freshman year of college. So I happened to live about 50 minutes from where I went to college. And so I started going for workouts and stuff in the spring of my senior year. I would go once or twice a week. And in the summer, I'd go once or twice a week. And then in July, I moved down there and I was full in athlete training 6 days a week, every day except Sunday, from July until our first game in the end of August, September, our first scrimmage, I guess. And I was doing great. I had moved up the ranks in the depth chart pretty quickly. They had changed actually. So I originally was going to be an outside linebacker because that was more of what I had played in high school. But when I got there and, put in the work and they liked my ability in the open field, I could cover well and I tackled really well. I was a very sure tackler. And so they ended up moving me to, it was a strong safety hybrid, very like Troy Polamalu role, which like when he said that, I remember it was like, oh, we want you kind of like a Troy Polamalu. I was like, yes, please make me a Troy Polamalu, because he was literally like, that's who I like modeled my game after was him. But that's beside the point. But anyways, I was doing great, off to a hot start. First game of the season, I had an interception, I had 2 passes defended, a couple tackles, and a tackle for loss. I mean, it was like, I was like, I have arrived. It was going great. And second week, so backtrack a little bit. During like the physical and stuff at the beginning of the 2 days, stuff like that, you do your physical. The doctor had discovered I had a slight hernia in my groin that I didn't even notice. And he was like, well, it looks like it doesn't hurt you. Don't bother like that. I said, it's very small. He said, we could probably just monitor it throughout the season and, you can get it fixed, have surgery or whatever it may be after the season's over. And I was like, okay, cool, great. Because I didn't want to miss my freshman season because I wasn't going to redshirt. Obviously at that point I would have redshirted. But I was actually going to get to play, so I didn't want to, redshirt and lose that momentum that I had. But anyways, fast forward back, first game, awesome, went great. That first practice, so we had the game Saturday. Our first practice was on Tuesday, our like first padded practice, like our first like contact practice was on that following Tuesday. We're doing tackling drills. I tackle, my leg drags weird, my groin, I felt it rip in half, literally from one end to the other, and excruciating pain, and done for the season. And had to have surgery. Had surgery a couple days later. Was out of commission just in general for like almost 2 months because like there was a couple times because we had our beds were like loft beds because we had desk underneath them. There was a couple times I missed class because I couldn't get out of bed. I could not crawl and climb out of bed because the abdominal muscles would not allow me. It hurt so much. And from there, just spiraled. Um, I struggled with, obviously they gave me pain medications and pretty hefty ones. I struggled with taking the pain pills and abusing the pain pills because I wasn't taking them. I wasn't taking them because I physically felt bad. I was taking them because I emotionally felt bad, and mentally just dove into depression. I was drinking heavily, was spending most of my time uh, in skipping class, um, because I didn't want to do anything. I was so depressed. Now I look back on it, I thought I was just lazy, but which was partially true, but I was just so depressed from it because I'm a very big momentum person, and the second I like and the stories, like I literally was like, I'm gonna be that story, and it was kind of a uh, self what is it, self something prophecy. Anyways, whatever that saying is, where a self fulfilling prophecy. It was a self fulfilling prophecy because I was telling myself, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm that story. The kid, goes off to college, thinks he's going to be all that, doesn't, focuses on football, gets injured, and then, can't play again, loses a scholarship, all that sort of thing. I was like, oh no, I'm going to be that. I want to be Jason Street. If you've ever seen Friday Night Lights. And I was like, oh, and so I just, that spiraled into depression, using drugs, abusing alcohol, addicted to pornography, and just dove head into any vile thing that I could find. Binge eating. I gained like 40 pounds. So when I graduated high school, my senior year, I was 100. I was like 6-ish, 6 foot. I was like, so like I scrape like 6'1". So I yeah, I'm 6'1". I'm like 6 foot and like 3/4 or 5/8, depending on how straight my back is that day. So it's 6'1", especially on my roster. In sports, I was always 6'1". But I graduated. I was 190 pounds. My first game as a freshman, because I remember I weighed myself, I was 218, and well, aesthetically, it was the best like I have ever physically looked. I was, it was rocking. I was rocking. But, and then, like I said, this was 8 weeks later, and I was 237 pounds or something like that, 240 pounds. I was big. Um, and a lot of it was just because I was obviously injured and could not do a lot, but I was just eating my feelings, drinking my feelings, trying to numb it with pills, trying to numb it with pornography and girls, just anything to numb the pain. But the thing is, it wasn't a physical pain; it was a mental and emotional pain, and you can't run from those because they stick around. And so I went through all this, and then I ended up dropping out of school. Um, that after that, so I go back home after that first semester, and I decided to take a semester off because I was obviously not in a very good place. Um, and told my coaches, hey, I am just like, I don't even remember exactly how the conversation went. I just said, hey, I'm not doing good or something. I don't remember. Um, I'm not going to be able, like, I could tell I was not in a place where I was going to be able to mentally make it back. And partially, I've always said just because I was lazy, but honestly, I just like mentally just was not, and it partially was because I was lazy, but I was also just struggling with so many things and just could not make it back. I was not strong enough to make it back at that time. Um, I it bothers me that I wasn't, but it is what it is, and worked out for me in the long run. But I stayed home for a semester. I actually worked at a lumber yard, and did a lot of manual labor jobs, working 50, 60-hour weeks. absolutely loved it too. Like I'm very fond of those days with work. I just love doing hard work, long hours. Anyways, and that's kind of, I think it kind of helped prove to me, to myself, that I wasn't lazy, at least not intrinsically. Like I wasn't like just a lazy bum who gives up on things, even though I had a lot of instances where I was a lazy bum who gave up on things. Um, and so, or worked there for like 6 months and actually went back to school the next year. So what would have been my third semester was actually my second semester. Um, and um, went there, and through this whole process of that year, just there was a lot of healing involved, with the guy who was my roommate. Actually, his name is Tim. Still love him very much to this day, even though I don't get to talk to him as much as I wish. And I don't know if he'll ever see this, but Tim, if for somehow you watch this, I love you and I miss you. And have some babies, please, because that'll give me the reason I need to go visit you. But not that I need a reason, I guess. Anyways, but just through my relationship with my roommate and my suite mates and just my RA and stuff, and our dorm pastor, because I went to a Christian school. Really, just a lot of healing was done through all that. And actually, after that year, I ended up dropping out of school for real, because it was just so dadgum expensive, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was there for. Because I had changed majors, and and I wasn't even sure what I was doing with those majors. Um, so I was like, I don't, and I just like I could see the student loans piling up, and after like 3 semesters, I had like $36,000 in student loans, and I was just like, what am I doing? And so stopped going to school, started working, through all this process. Met my wife, or I guess technically reconnected with her. We were friends in 6th grade, went to the same middle school, and somehow we had all the same friends in high school, but somehow never ran into each other, which is a gift from the Lord, because she would have not liked Caleb before she met the Caleb that she fell in love with. And from what I've heard, vice versa is the same. And so met her, fell in love, got married, still had some ups and downs, struggling with depression and addiction, ebbs and flows, ebbs and flows. And then 2020, I had actually, at the time, was considering becoming a police officer. And part of the police officer training, you have to run like a 2 mile thing, and under a certain amount of time. So I started running, and through that, I'm like, I kind of like this. And so actually, from that, I ended up deciding not to become a police officer in the long run, but just kind of realized I kind of liked running. So I just kept at it, trained and ran a half marathon. And like, it was literally at the beginning of COVID. Like, all the COVID lockdown stuff was like March of 2020, and I ended up doing it virtually because of the COVID stuff in May of 2020. And then didn't run much for a while after that, just like off and on, and was doing pretty good until, in the years, it all gets mixed up now, because I think it was 2021, December 2021, when my pastor passed away, and I was very close. He was very meaningful to me. He was, I would consider like a grandfather figure. He was a spiritual father to me, and it was pretty devastating, and really struggled with it. It really brought back a lot of struggles with depression and anxiety and addiction and stuff like that. And anyways, through that whole process of getting healthy again, I was like, I remember when I was running, I remember I felt my best. So I was, I'm gonna start running again. And then so I started running. And it's like, this is why I'm trying to remember like the dates of whenever that happened. And then that July, Yeah. So that was July of 2022 when I started running again, and I decided I was going to run a marathon. And the Dallas Marathon was in December, or it's in December every year. So I signed up to the Dallas Marathon December 2022, ran my first marathon, loved it so much, actually got home and signed up for the Fort Worth Cowtown Marathon, which was in February, because I was like, I've already run one. It's like 2 months away, so I know I can do it. I just wanted to do it again. And then, from there, like ended up like after I finished that one, I was like, I love it. So I signed up for another one and just a lot of races. And that began my love affair with running. And I remember literally like I was doing all this and I came home from a run one day and I told Brooke, I was like, I don't know how, but I want to find a way to make this like my life, like a big part of my life. I don't know what that means or how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out a way. So this is me figuring out a way. Um, so I absolutely love it. Just the mental fortitude it built and the confidence it built, the discipline that it built and established in me, to do hard things when I don't want to do them, and also to know that I can do hard things even when I don't feel like I can or that I want to. I just love running. Obviously, the physical benefits are great. I have friends that are like bodybuilders, and they always like, dude, how do you get your calves like that? I'm like, run lots of miles, bro. And it's funny because they're the whole bodybuilding trope of, especially with like leg day and like gym bros and weightlifting, like, skip leg day, or how do you get, always trying to build your calves and stuff. I'm like, well, run 20, 30, 40 miles a week and you'll build those calves up. But, I just love running the physical side of it. Obviously, you know, you get to the cardiovascular endurance, the muscle endurance. You naturally will, you know, if you balance it right with your nutrition, you will lose weight pretty easily because you burn so many calories. But that's why you have to tie it into your nutrition, because you're also going to want to consume so many calories because you're going to be hungry. I actually did it not to lose weight, but because I like to eat. And, as a life hack, run more, eat more. I'm like, sign me up. But the mental benefits, obviously the runner's high, the endorphins that it releases, the natural dopamine hits that you get, which is the body's reward system. So you do something hard, you feel good about it, which really helped me a lot with getting rid of a lot of the cheap dopamine with the addictions, alcohol, pornography, pills, all that sort of thing, where you get this cheap hit of dopamine, but then you feel like crap after it because you didn't do anything hard to earn it, and your cortisol levels go up and your stress, all the brain chemistry and body chemistry things that happen to you that also affect your emotional health. It's probably the running. So if you have any struggles with depression or anxiety or any just type of negative feelings, if you just struggle with just feeling bleh, running, I don't want to say will solve it, but pretty dang close. Like and I'll find, like, I know there's studies on it. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I don't have it in my notes here, but I'll find it and I'll put it in the description, or I'll put it right here. I'll put the link right here because I don't know what will be in the description. But to the studies that show that running is just, or in some cases, more beneficial than antidepressant, than actual medication in terms of managing and overcoming depression, anxiety, and other emotional, and mental disorders and such. But so that's why I love running, and why I think you should run is because, number one, it'll just make you better. And ironically, because I hear so many here, let me tell you the things I hear when people say why you shouldn't run. It's bad for your knees and it's hard on your body. Well, that's the biggest pile of bull crap. So obviously, I have trained hard for athletics pretty much my entire life. And I always had knee problems and feet problems and ankle problems and like hip problems because of like I have a slight curve, my scoliosis, slight. My spine is slightly off, so my hips are slightly uneven. So it's always caused joint issues in my legs. Um, but ever since I started running, and obviously, like when I first started running, I was having a lot of knee issues, but that's because my running form was terrible, which is one of the reasons why I actually became a certified running coach, was because I wanted to learn how to coach myself. And I fixed my running form, and through that, like, and just strengthening myself, I don't have any problems. My knees used to pop like when I would stand up, or if I was sitting for a long period of time, like, and I stood up, like it sounded like you could hear things and pop and all, and it doesn't happen anymore. So all that, oh, it's bad for us. I mean, if you like run just miles on miles and you don't take care of yourself, well, yeah, but that's the same thing that's going to happen if you sit on your butt all day, every day for 20 years and don't take care of yourself. It more has to do with the don't taking care of yourself part. Um, so if your first thing is, oh, it's hard on my body. So number one, you may be running wrong. And if that's you, reach out to me. We can talk about how to make sure you're not, how to fix your running economy, your running technique, how your body and how you step, how your foot hits the ground, how with your stride length, what you're doing that's causing, this impact on your body that's hurting you, most likely means you're doing it wrong. So reach out to me if that's you, and we can work on that. That is part of my running program, is working on that. And even if you don't want to do a running program, you just want some, a quick tip or something like that, shoot me a message or a comment. So I'm here to help y'all. Number two is, of why I shouldn't run. I don't have the time, which, that part, like, I get more than any other objection, because, especially if you are wanting to like run a marathon or even a half marathon, like it's going to require time, because logging in miles, especially when you get into, longer distances, takes time. Even the fastest runners, like, so the world record holder for the marathon, Kevin Kiptum, may he rest in peace, passed away this year. Very unfortunate, because he's very young. I think he was like 19, and probably was going to do some outstanding things in terms of running in the running feats. Very, very sad when that happened. But he holds the world record for the fastest marathon of 2 hours and 43 seconds, which is insane. But that's still 2 hours. Like you say, it's even the fastest people in the world doing those distances, it still takes hours to do. And they spend hours upon hours training every day. So I get that part, but you can find time. And I know when people hear that, they're like, oh yeah, but you don't know my life. You don't know my... So let me just tell you, like I said, I am a husband. I am a father. I have a full-time job. Me and my wife are the young adult directors at our church. We work at our church. I have a coaching business, and do a lot of social media stuff, and have started a podcast, and lead a men's group. I was like, so I have all of these things, and that's not to like, like pat myself and look how hard he works. No, it's like, I get it. I get it. You got a lot of things. You got a lot of crap. I am filming this podcast at 10:38 p.m. on a Tuesday, because this is the only time I have available. Now, well, you only have so much time. You got to budget it. So that means if you want to do it, if it's, there's a saying, if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. What that means is everybody has the same amount of time, but not everybody has the same amount of responsibilities. Not everybody has the same, budgetary needs for their time. So if you want to start running, if you want to get healthy, if you want to take control of your health and begin to make yourself physically better, so you'll be mentally and spiritually better, so you can lead your family, so you can live a long life, so you can, take your grandkids on a hike when you're in your 50s and 60s and 70s. If you want to be like that, you got to start now. And so that means you may have to give some things up. I would love to play PlayStation. I have a PS4. I love to play video games. I love to watch movies. I love to watch TV. But outside of like very, few times, I don't, because that's the thing I have to sacrifice in order to fit these things in. So you may have to give up some things, at least temporarily, because life changes all the time. You never know what's going to happen. And you may only run 2 or 3 times a week. If you're starting, I always tell people start with walking. First of all, if you have like no running experience, start with walking. But we'll get more into that in a minute. But, so you can make the time. And if you need help making time, that's one of the things that I talk about in my coaching program. But I will also love to just give you some pointers and tips and stuff like that. If you have anything specific, leave in the comments or shoot me a message. I'm here to talk to y'all. I'm here to help, like I said. And then let's see, what's another objection that I hear? Why should you run? Or why I can't run? It's boring. Let's see. That's the one. It's like it's boring. How do you like run for so long? Well, it can be incredibly boring. I mean, there's some days when like I'll go run for like an hour and a half, and it feels like 5 minutes, and I'm like, wow, where did the time go? And I think about grand things and come up with wonderful ideas and pray and uh, just feel a lot of gratitude for my family, just all the great things. And then there's some days where it's like a 45-minute run. Like this is probably going to be tomorrow. I had heavy leg lifting today. I did 5 miles a day, and I did it fast because I was feeling good, and I wanted to run fast because I haven't like run fast in a while. And tomorrow's going to suck. I already know my legs are not going to feel it. Tomorrow morning is going to be one of those days where my 30-minute run is going to feel like forever. And so, but the thing is I'm going to be bored. And I'm not going to listen to anything because I've learned that it's okay. Number one, it's okay to be bored. I feel like that's something we need to do more is be bored, is learn how to be with our own thoughts and be with our own feelings and emotions, because busyness and noise and distraction is I think one of the biggest addictions that we have. And I say addiction, I don't mean like a clinical addiction. I mean just something we use to distract ourselves, to medicate, to self-medicate, to deal with emotional pain, which is what most addictions do. You're self-medicating with something physical to try to cover and fulfill something emotional, which doesn't work. But we keep ourselves busy because it's like if we don't have time to deal with the bad feelings, then they're not there. And I think that's something that you need to grow okay with, is being bored, being uncomfortable. And that's the biggest thing. You want to know, number one, outside of the physical benefits of running, the number one reason why I think you should run, the number one reason, is the discipline you gain, the confidence you gain, and your ability let's see, and the ability to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, to learn how to suffer well. I talked about this when I finished my first ultra marathon, the 50K. It was incredibly difficult. One of the hardest things I've ever done. And one of the things I learned is my ability to suffer. How far my ability to suffer has come since I started, 3 years ago. Whenever I started, 3 or 4 years ago now, is your ability to suffer, your ability to grow comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's the only way to grow. The only way to grow is to be uncomfortable, because growth is not comfortable. Change is not comfortable. And that's why so many people stay stuck in the rut that they're currently in, while they stay lazy, while they stay fat, while they stay unhealthy, why they say I don't have time, why they say I can't do this, why they say, well, this just doesn't work for me, is because they are uncomfortable with growth and change. So you have to begin to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. to me, that is the number one benefit of running that you can't find almost anywhere else in a fitness endeavor, at least to my opinion. So, you hear that all the saying, you're like, okay, well, how do I start running? Well, if you're, like I said, baby, first time, brand new to running, I would say start with walking. And you can walk every day. And that's the best part. If you're starting with walking, you can walk every day. As a matter of fact, I still walk a lot of the time. Even like if I'm taking it's the perfect walk. Just walk a lot. Number one, walk a lot, period. And get your body moving, get yourself up. And I said, because walking uses the same bodily processes as running at just lower intensities. So it still helps build, obviously slowly and not as, like I said, not as quickly or as strong, but helps build that base endurance and your ability to move and really helps start getting your heart healthy and strong. And then if you can run a mile fully, I say start running a mile and keep it slow. I would say invest in some type of fitness watch. So this is a Garmin Fenix 7X Sapphire Solar. It is one of the top of the line running watches. It's like $1,000. You don't need this, at least yet. Honestly, I may not even need it, but that's not the point. But I know Garmin, Coros is another brand, Apple Watch, Fitbit. There's also, Amazon, you can probably get a fitness watch for like $20, $30. Just something that counts your steps and you're able to count like your miles and see your heart rate more specifically. Because if you're just getting out, start with a mile, walk a mile. And then if you can run the full mile, then run the full mile. And if you can't, if you can run some of it, then run some of it. I tell people best way to start is, I would say run for a minute, walk for a minute. And then if you feel good, then run for 2 minutes, walk for a minute, run for 3 minutes, walk for a minute, and just keep that going until you're running for the whole mile. And do that for 2 whole weeks, just a mile. And then you'll start building on your mileage. It said, remember, it said, you're not going to be able to run 26 miles in 6 weeks, but you can in 26 weeks, in 2 years, it said, and it just depends on where you're at and how fast you want to get there and how much you're able to commit to training and to being consistent. Because consistency is key more than just outright effort. Another good saying is, consistently good will make you occasionally great. Said if you are consistently good, you put in good effort, you put in training, you put in time, then you will have that occasional greatness that everybody else sees and says, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, they're just naturally gifted. Oh, this, and this because of this, and this. I said, no, it's because they were consistently good. So that's how you should start running today. And if you want to start running, if you're going to start running, comment below. If you have any questions, like I said, shoot me a message at any time for any reason, even if things I'm not talking about, but you think I would be able to answer from past content you've seen or anything like that, shoot me a message. I love to talk to people. As you can tell, this is supposed to be a 30-minute episode, and I'm on minute like 40. So I don't know if it'll be minute 40 and post-production after it's been edited, but I like to talk. I like to talk to people. I like to help people. Shoot me a message. And let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me for this week of the Fit-ish Dad podcast. We'll continue next week, really diving into a lot of the science with running, running gear, like shoes, like I said, my watch. Honestly, we may do a whole episode on just gear because I am a big gearhead and I have about 43 pairs of running shoes in my closet right now, and I want to talk about all of them. So tune in next week. We'll talk about more things running, shoes, gear, all that sort of thing. But thank you for joining and watching this episode, this week's episode of the Fit-ish Dad podcast. We will see you next week.